You know, everything Diddy, because there's always a new update every day. There's more cases being filed, there's more news with his lawyers. We're going to talk about all of that. We're going to get into Kamala Harris and her media moves. I want to hear what you think about that. I'm going to let you know what's going on with that. We are also going to get into Shannon Sharpe and his little drama over his comments on X, Twitter, but same thing. We're going to talk about that, and we're going to get into what happened with the Eagles' Bryce Young, plus a couple of other topics. I'm Jill Munroe. This is RSVP with Jill Munroe. If you don't know who I am, I'm an entertainment journalist. Let's hit these headlines. All right, first up, Kamala Harris, there's been a lot of talk about her not doing interviews during her presidential run. We know it was sudden. She hasn't really stepped out and talked to a great deal of people. But as of late, she started a new media tour. And I think it's a smart move, but some people are questioning if it is the right approach. So, tomorrow at 10 a.m., tomorrow's Monday, she will be dropping an interview with Matt Barnes and Steven Jackson on their All the Smoke podcast. And the reason why I said that it's a good idea is because some of the main detractors, commentary, comments, as far as she goes, have been around Black men and whether or not she has basically um, tapped in with them, if she imprisoned all those Black men wrongly convicted. And this is an opportunity for her to have that conversation, for her to have the conversation around marijuana and dispel some of those myths and, reach an audience that has been resistant to her thus far. So that's why I think it's a good idea. So we'll tap into that in a little bit. But, let's talk Diddy, right? Diddy is going to be in our headlines probably for at least the next year. The trial's not going to start anytime soon. They're still gathering evidence. There are still more lawsuits dropping daily. So, a couple of the latest ones that have come up over this week is one lawsuit against an unnamed former bad boy employee. There are rumors as to who this individual is. There are rumors that he may have been connected to managing Dipset back in the day, also did some bodyguard work. So that is one of the cases that has popped up. There are numerous others, allegedly both involving men and women with these accusations. So it's a lot happening with Diddy. We don't know where to start. But one of the most interesting things that has come about is that there was a lawyer that appeared on, I'm blanking on the name of the show, but she said that she is a representative of one of the victims, and allegedly a, an individual who was in possession of some of Diddy's freak off tapes. How long did it take me to say the word freak off? I don't think that I have ever heard those two words together so much as we have surrounding the Diddy case. But this person is claiming that they've seen stills of this video with a very, very high profile person, and it doesn't say if they are involved in activities or just present, but that these videos are being sold on the black market throughout Hollywood. So the interesting thing about that is, one, that's extortion, right? And I understand if you were taking it direct, well, not even understand, but if you were taking it to the individual for assistance, maybe still extortion, still shady. But if you were taking it to people to try and see if they can then negotiate with said individual for a fee, still extortion. So I don't know. Aren't you supposed to directly take those type of things to the feds? Probably, but that's not what we're seeing in this case, because it feels like there's a little bit of clout chasing going on. There's no doubt that Diddy reached a lot of places, a lot of people, but I also think the myth is growing and a lot of people are trying to tap in and perhaps get a payday. not discounting the legitimate victims, but I think that we're in for a roller coaster ride. We're going to take all sorts of twists and turns. We know that Shyne has come out and basically said that he covered for Diddy all of those times, that Diddy is no friend to him, that the reason why he recently, in the past few years, has socialized with Diddy was for the benefit of his country Belize, which we know he is. I don't want to mess up his title, so I'm not going to say what it is, but basically, he is saying that Diddy is no friend to him and business is business, and he wanted to help his people. So that's why he made that little move. Also, something that I found that was kind of interesting that has been circulating on the internet. Diddy, when the Love era started a couple of years ago, right before all of this kicked off with his lawsuits against De Leon, if you want to believe, well, about De Leon, his liquor brand, if you want to believe that that is sort of the catalyst for his dirty deeds coming to light. Because here's the thing to me, even if that is the case, even if it is really Diddy tried to sue the liquor company, they didn't want to see a black man come up and be independently in charge of all of these functions, because as we know, the spirits, or maybe you don't, the spirits industry is largely unregulated in that manner. So there's not a lot of places and ways that you can go as far as distribution and distilleries and things of that nature. And Diddy did not own his brand outright. Valiant Thor says, is there still a presumption of innocence? I believe that there is a presumption of innocence. That's why we will see what happens in the court. But the court of public opinion depends on what side you are and how you feel about the information, and ultimately how you feel about Diddy. And that's largely what we're going to be dealing with, because it's going to be quite some time before this trial actually heads to court. And I think that that is the problem. A lot of people are jumping on the bandwagon, adding things in. Everybody has a Diddy story. Here's the thing about a Diddy party, and I'm talking about a party, not the freak off. Everybody in Hollywood has been to a Diddy party. I've been to several Diddy parties throughout the years. It's not an uncommon thing. You go, it was the hot thing to do. He had a hot label. He was selling lifestyle. But what is we've seen transpire in about the last 15 years or so, I believe, speculation, right? Rumor. We want to be clear. Allegedly, it has a lot to do with Diddy becoming addicted to drugs. If you've checked out any of Gene Deal, excuse me, stuff on the internet, then you know he talked about a time around 2007, 2008, which is probably right before these Cassie allegations all started, where an argument with he and Kim got really physical. She allegedly, according to Gene Deal, stabbed him in the wrist, and that is what kicked off Diddy's drug addiction. And largely, what people are alleging or summarizing is that a lot of his behavior over the last 15 years, which is what this case primarily deals with, has to do with his drug addiction. Valiant Thor says, is it a crime to lubricate that which is not lubricated? I am not sure exactly what you mean by that, but here's the thing. If all parties are consenting, what you do in the bedroom, with whom, how many, and what happens is really your business. The crux of the case and the problem is if you are unknowingly drugging people, not allowing them to leave, recording them without their consent, and therefore using allegedly these recordings to control them in business. These are the alleged things, but just the actions and whatever he was doing, nah, that's their business. You don't really want to get, for me, in people's bedrooms like that, because do you want anyone in yours? That's their business. But consent and the other accusations, those are a totally different thing. Valiant Thor, you are extremely beautiful. Have a blessed day. Thank you so much. Thank you for tapping in. Hit subscribe. Tap back in with me. We're going to cover these type of topics all the time. Appreciate it. Shout out to you. So there's always going to be more updates with Diddy. One thing I do think is interesting is, like I mentioned, before the Love era started, Diddy had this tat on his back. It is of a Haitian goddess. I do not want to be disrespectful and jack up her name, but I believe the last part is Dantor. She is a powerful figure as far as my research told me in Haitian Vodou, and she is known as the goddess of love, but she is also known as the protector of women and children and vengeance. So some are saying that when Diddy got this tattoo on his back, and it's very large, you could see again, he showed it off a lot a couple of years back. I know he's wiped his Instagram, but if you Google Diddy's back tat, I'm sure you could find it. Basically what they're saying is he picked the wrong tat to get, because that also kicked off around when the lawsuit happened and all of these things that have had such a domino effect. And that particular goddess is a protector of women and children and the wronged. So Diddy may have, not only by his actions but by his tat, may have added to his problems. We'll have to see. Like I said, I will keep you updated on all of that, because there's so much happening. I forgot to mention that Young Miami was mentioned in a lawsuit from Jane Doe, alleging that she threatened her about having taking care of a pregnancy so that it is no longer a pregnancy. We want to make sure that we adhere to the YouTube standards over here and things of that nature. Now, here's the problem. We know that Young Miami crashed out on Twitter arguing with one of Diddy's exes, a woman named Gina, who went on Tasha K and described, prior to a couple of years prior to this, a situation with Diddy where she claimed that Diddy beat her, attacked her, and accused him of various other things. Now, when Young and Miami and she were going back and forth, Young Miami said that, I think she said that if Diddy told Gina to get on her knees and eat the cat, she would. And listen, that is what it is. We know what that is. Probably Gina's lawsuit. We don't know because, as I said, it's Jane Doe. But Young Miami might have got herself caught up in a whole situation that she wasn't looking for. And again, we'll keep a close eye on it because it's a lot happening with that. A lot, a lot, a lot. We know that Diddy's legal team has been speaking out. They participated in a TMZ documentary that is currently on Tubi. Yes, his lawyer basically talking about what has been presented in the indictment, listing off reasoning behind some of the things. I don't know if that's a great strategy, because are you not giving the prosecution an advantage? We're going to see. We're going to check out what's happening and, keep you abreast of it. All right, moving on to the next thing briefly. I don't know if you guys saw this. Eve has dropped her new autobiography, Who's That Girl? And she mentioned how when she dropped her original album, Jay-Z gave her a phone call and told her not to be upset if the album didn't do well out of the gate. And there's a lot of outrage about it. It's popular to hate on Jay-Z right now. People are waiting for his downfall. They're like, oh, they got Diddy, Jay-Z's next. Don't know if I agree with that, but we'll see what happens, right? So with that, Eve came out and basically said that it wasn't the way some people are trying to spin it, because a lot of people were like, the nerve of Jay-Z, women can do a lot of things. The reality was, at that time period, female rappers weren't really going platinum. They definitely weren't going number one. And it took a long time to get us to where we are now, where there are multiple female rappers out at the same time. They are not birthed out of a male dominated crew. And I think Jay-Z was just giving her the lay of the land to tell her to keep pushing. And Eve agreed. She talked about it on the Breakfast Club. We're going to see what happens with Jay. But right now, why are we so pressed for tea that we are throwing everybody's name into the middle of Diddy stuff? We'll address that at some point. I would like to talk about that, but a topic for another day, perhaps. But I just think that we got to be sensitive to, because these are people's lives. these are real people, even though they seem bigger than life. At least their victims are. And a lot of this doesn't really seem about concern for the victims. It seems more about, let's see what the most salacious item is. And a lot of it, once again, doesn't have to do with the facts. It has to do with, who's screwing who. And while interesting, because I love a tea party, I think we need to keep the victims in mind with these type of serious allegations. All right. Moving on, speaking of relationship drama, let's get into Shaq. So, Shaq recently got caught up on Instagram. Shaq is 52 years old. And listen, I am not age shaming, I am not talking trash. If you want to date young girls, Shaq, go right ahead. But the problem with dating young girls sometimes when you are an older gentleman is that you're going to deal with young girl drama. So a young lady posted a picture with Shaq's head cut off and his arm around her. And it drew some attention because she is social media popular. Her name is Maria. I don't have her Instagram right now. I apologize for that. But, people were speculating, oh, that's Shaq. Shaq came out and denied it was him. He ended up taking a bunch of pictures with a bunch of different women in the same pose, saying he had lots of girlfriends. Well, listen, Maria didn't like that. So Maria came out with the receipts, honey. Maria came out with the hotel photos, all of these things. And I just want to say again, date who you want. Everyone is of age, but Shaq, dog, let's be real. You're not going to have those problems if you dated a little more mature woman, I would think. I don't know. He keeps getting in weird situations with the young ones. So we'll see what happens. And lastly, in some more sports relationship drama, Bryce Young, the Eagles quarterback. He is having a little rough season, and Eagle fans have noticed his struggles. And I don't know if you were keeping track, if you watched Monday Night Football last week, but his ex girlfriend was featured on the screen, Maya, with, excuse me, not Maya, Myra, with Tyrese Maxey, who's the star of the 76ers. Myra is a former basketball player herself, and she's been linked to a couple of other athletes. Now, people are naturally going in on her. But I talked about this in my book, Post Game Pass, about athletes. And I wrote this before the Me Too movement, but athletes are basically Me Too. So the idea, you guys are wondering why one athlete dates a woman that another athlete dates. Why do they all drive the same cars? Why do they all have the similar type of jewelry? It's a very, I'm a follow you, follow me competitive type of thing. So you're going to see all of these types of things forever and a day. There are so many athletes that share babies' mamas. I'm not just talking about girlfriends, I'm talking about their children or siblings. And we don't always talk about it. We talk about some of the more recent situations that we've heard about, but there's a lot of connect the dots. So we can get into that another time. But Bryce, keep your chin up. There's always another Insta babe, athlete, whatever out there for you. And maybe his on-field drama is just, you know, a coincidence. All right, lastly, before I get out of here, we got to get into Shannon Sharpe. Uncle Shay Shay has been caught up a little bit, a wee bit lately in some drama. And this latest thing this week is no different, but it's kind of an interesting one. So, essentially, what happened, we know how outspoken Shannon is. We know throughout this WNBA season, he has been very vocal and very supportive of Caitlin Clark. At times, some feel that his support has been to the detriment of the WNBA players that have already been there, especially the black ones, putting it down, and that he hasn't in the past or currently isn't throwing his support behind these WNBA players, the black ones, like he is for Caitlin Clark. So someone made a post about this on Twitter and basically said, Shannon, I wish you would support the other WNBA players as hard as you support Caitlyn, because she doesn't really need it. I think this was when the Fever got eliminated from the WNBA playoffs. And Shannon clapped back and basically said that he does and he doesn't feel that way, something to that effect, right? And so after that, someone else chimed back in and basically was like, I bet you do. Well, Shannon then hit this person who I guess apparently, well, let me tell you what Shannon said first. He came back with a 90s Def Comedy Jam quip, something about buying horsehair. The horse wants the hair back that he bought, or where the I bet the horse is missing the hair on your head that you bought. Here's a couple of problems with that. One, Shannon has been accused of being anti-black woman, right? That is something that honestly, excuse me, has sort of dodged him throughout his professional career. I'm talking on the field back in the 90s. And obviously, there's been some commentary about it recently, right? So, him responding with a 90s Jeff Jam, just like a Gen X man, just like an old throwback Gen X man, to come with some horsehair stuff. Like we aren't in 2024 and everybody and their mama is rocking wigs, extensions, weaves, whatever you want to call it, in all forms and fashions. That's beside the point. The point is it was a very dated clapback. But beyond that, he clapped back, but he didn't take a close look at the picture. And maybe he's like, hey, I'm just clapping back. I don't need to. But if you're going to take a personal shot, pay attention and sit up in class, kids, because here's why. The picture was actually Megan Thee Stallion. Oh, by the way, it was a picture of Megan Thee Stallion with her what? Luxurious real hair. So the idea that you saw a black woman and automatically assumed that it was fake hair, one, again, like I said, very 90s Def Jam comeback. And I like Shannon. I mess with Shannon, but sometimes things are just kind of what they are. And two, the fact that Megan was just on your show and you were just smiling and giggling and doing the Uncle Shay Shay thing, but you didn't even recognize that that was her picture. And you couldn't even see, even if you didn't recognize her, the beauty that is Megan Thee Stallion, and your automatic comeback is about buying some horsehair. You could have just skipped that commentary altogether. All I know is that this is not going to do anything to quiet the rumors that Shannon has a thing about black women and that he is not in their corner and not supportive of them unless they're famous. So, I mean, listen, I don't know how you guys feel about any of these topics. Let me know in the comments. Hit me up right now. Let me know if this is a good time for me to stream. Check around, look at the site, check things out. And definitely. I don't know why I can't talk right now, because it's getting late, maybe. Definitely let me know what your thoughts are about the puppy thing, the Diddy thing. There's going to be so very much to talk about as witnesses continue to come forward. Let me know if you think it's innocent until proven guilty. If you like, hell no, Diddy's been guilty since the 90s. I want to know how you feel about it. Thanks for locking in. I will talk to you next time.